Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing ComplexZeta in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Let's play a con against ComplexZeta if they allow c4. So maybe we'll have a hedgehog or Roxy bind position, knight c3. So usually they play d4 here after. Do I want to play queen c7 if they haven't committed to that? I'm going to go b6 first, because b6 is an essential part of the setup that black wants to achieve with the bishop coming to b7. Usually they will play d4, but for now, I don't feel like I have to necessarily commit to queen c7, which is a common con move. I feel like I can play this way instead. Yep, and he does play d4, so let's take. If knight takes, I might play queen c7 then. Yeah, I'll do it next move. Could also play bishop e7, but queen c7 is totally fine. It'd be nice if we had a complicated hedgehog position on our hands, because these are a lot of fun to play. Let's go bishop b7. So basically, the hedgehog is where you set up your pawns along the 6th rank. You play e6, d6, b6, a6. And d6 would be the next move in line for us. There are more active ways to play this. Like some people play bishop b4, getting the bishop outside the chain. But I've always played it in the traditional hedgehog style. So I'll play d6 now. And usually they set up with the bishop on e3, the pawn on f3, queen coming to d2, rook to c1. That's a very standard setup for them. So knight f6. So f3, I'll play bishop e7. Black's move order is flexible. There are many ways you can play these moves. Some are better than others, though. Just going to check ComplexZeta's stats while we have a moment. He says he's 29 years old, USCF 2060. I am a mathematician at Stanford working in, among other areas, algebraic number theory. Sounds like a pretty smart guy. Okay, let's castle now. Now, pretty standard for white would just be putting the rooks on d1 and c1. ComplexZeta has a peak 15-minute rating of 2191, achieved a couple months ago. Over 3,000 15-minute games played. Okay, so nice opportunity against a USCF expert here. Yep, rook c1. I'll play knight bd7. Now, the next decision, once I have this minor piece arrangement, is how to arrange my rooks. And what black normally does is put the a rook on c8 and this rook on e8. d8 seems to be a more normal square for the queenside rook, or kingside rook rather, but it's better on e8 because in the future, if you're able to go d5 and open the middle of the board, you would much rather have the rook eyeing the e file, which will become open, rather than the d file. And there's a couple other points to putting the rook on e8 too, like it reinforces e6 in a later event that this pawn becomes under attack. So he's going a4 right away. He's playing this in a pretty direct fashion. I'll probably play queen b8. Yeah, let's go queen b8. This also is a standard move for black. It looks like a cowardly move. You're hiding the queen, but it does a couple things. Like one, you get the queen off the c file, which in view of future action there, it could be a liability standing on the c file. Like for instance, if white plays knight d5 and then you take and they take with the c pawn and attack down that file. Also, there's this maneuver. It's called the Samish maneuver, named after Fritz Samish, who was the first one to play it. But it's bishop to d8 to c7. So creating a queen-bishop battery along the h2, b8 diagonal. And the idea there would be to further prepare d5, basically. The way he's playing it, it looks like to me he's going for a5 is what he's leaning towards. He's trying to bring his knight back to support the a5 pawn advance. That has some interesting implications. Like one is that, maybe I could play d5 right away. And if he takes it, bishop takes b4. I'm a little uncertain about that though. Like d5, e takes d5, bishop takes b4, d takes e6 seems unclear. I could also play knight e5 if I want to attack this c4 pawn. Maybe that's the better move. Knight e5. I just feel with how aggressively he's playing it on the queen side, I might want to do away with traditional maneuvers like bishop d8 to c7 or stuff like h5, h4, h3 is played a lot in these positions, or even the so-called Fischer plan, which is king h8, rook g8, and g5. I think his directness demands directness on my part as well. So knight e5, I'm losing control of b6. He could take that pawn, but knight takes c4 seems promising. I'd win one of his bishops that way. Yeah, I'm going to go for this because I just don't quite believe his setup right now. And I want to act now before he gets in a groove and plays a5, for instance. If he moves this knight, I might be able to play d5 myself and open the middle. This is such a rich line, the hedgehog. It's a line that if you study it, it will pay dividends for both white and black pretty heavily. And there's a great series of books by Grandmaster Sergei Shipov on the hedgehog that will pretty much tell you everything you could possibly want to know about this opening. I highly recommend those. So he takes, so I'm going to take on c4. Bishop takes e4, incidentally, is also possible, because that would be a discovered attack on his bishop. But somehow knight takes e4 seems better, and keep bishop takes e4 in reserve. If bishop takes e4, he could just retreat this bishop somewhere, like bishop back to e3. I think better to knock out his c-pawn. Yeah, let's do that. Could spend a little more time thinking, but these positions tend to get complex and stay complex. Just like his username. So let's pre-move this. Excellent chance he plays that. If not, I get his dark square bishop, so that's fine by me if he makes a queen move, like queen d4. I did see that he could play knight a5 here, and I thought rook takes b4 would be a good reply, and I still think it is. Let's say knight a5, rook takes b4, knight d5. I can play knight takes d5, guarding my rook. If he takes with the pawn, I have rook takes b6 then. So he plays bishop a5. Yeah, I saw this move. It just seemed extremely awkward for him. Like d5 now looks pretty good. d5, just opening the dark square bishop against b4. Let's say d5, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes. I'm liking that position. I can also double up my rooks before playing d5. That also looks pretty good. Tough call. Maybe d5 right away is weaker than doubling up the rooks. d5, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes. I could take with my pawn too, but bishop takes seems better. Rook takes, bishop takes. I'm hitting his knight and I'm hitting his bishop. So there is that point. Rook b1 maybe? Let's run through that line one more time. d5, e takes, knight takes, bishop takes. He could play knight c5 there. He's not necessarily obligated to exchange everything. Maybe rook fc8. Yeah, let's do that. It keeps more tension. we include the last piece. The rook was probably bound for the square anyways. We still have eyes towards playing d5. Plays the knight back, plays it pretty quickly too. Okay, d5 it is. Yeah, now he's pretty much obligated to take. And I could take with the pawn or the bishop. Probably the bishop is more active. Taking with the bishop also opens up the attack on b4 too. So I'm leaning towards that capture. Yeah, taking with the pawn would block my own light square bishop. I'm going to pre-move this recapture, in fact. And I don't know that he can really do anything other than take. He could take on c4 if he wanted. That gives me an extra option of taking with the pawn, or I could just recapture with the rook, and it's pretty similar. Does take on c4. Okay. So rook takes, still keeps the tension. Yeah, let's take that way. I think pawn takes knight bd4 doesn't look as good. I want to destroy his pawn structure. I really want to get him to take on d5. Pawn takes, knight takes is also looking tempting. Another way to attack b4 multiple times. Still leaning towards bishop takes, however. I wonder if, like, e takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook b1 is playable. Looks really weird, but the idea would be bishop takes b4, and then, like, knight d4, trying to utilize the pin. I wonder if for that reason I should take with the knight. Let's see, bishop takes d5, rook b1, bishop takes b4, knight d4, and unfortunately I'm pinned right here. Super annoying. If knight takes d5, what if queen d3? That could back my rook off a bit. Maybe just queen c8, knight c5 though. Knight c5 I can take with the bishop, I suppose. So knight takes d5, queen d3. Ah, I have rook h4 perhaps. Yeah, I think this looks better. I mean, I like both captures, but I wasn't sure about bishop takes d5, rook b1. Whereas here, if rook b1, just bishop takes b4, I'm covered down the file. So it's fine. Not sure how he's going to avoid dropping a pawn now. If b5, I can take on a4. That wins a pawn. Knight c5, I take with my bishop. Meanwhile, the threat is just taking. Yeah, if that, I can take with the bishop, right, on b4. So bishop takes b4, bishop takes b4, rook takes b4. Looks like a clean pawn. There's no back rank issue to deal with. I could throw in a check too, but I think I'll leave that check for later. There's no bishop g5 or anything like that. Bishop g5 would be nice here, but yeah, this checks out. Also, if he takes, oh no, I can't take on c1. I should just take this way. He could go knight a5 now. But I still think I'll be able to consolidate my extra pawn. This knight on d5 is very helpful to us. Plays knight c5 instead. Maybe bishop c8 against that move. Bishop c8 just coordinates our queen and rook, and it also remains guarding this pawn. Yeah. Still no back rank concerns. Might be good to make a Luft move like h6 or g6 soon. But I think for all intents and purposes, I'm up a pawn. Now we go into consolidation / winning mode. I can look at playing rook b2 soon, but I might just make a Luft move first, like h6 or g6 or maybe even h5. Probably h6 is the most appropriate. If I play g6, I slightly weaken f6, and with their knight being in range of e4, I might not want to do that, although my knight does a great job of holding everything on this square. Okay, knight in, so they're threatening knight to c6. I have to be heads up about that. Seems like they have a lot of pieces nearly hanging right now. If I play rook b2, what is their plan? They're going to go knight c6? Maybe. I could play queen b6 first. I'm a little leery of leaving this bishop undefended on c8. I could play rook b1 if I want to try to kill the play. Rook b2, knight c6, queen b6, knight e7. I have knight takes e7, so that's no issue. Huh. Okay, let's go rook in. Rook into b2 it is. It's going to make his king nervous. Maybe I can even go knight f4 next move. Attack g2. Because my queen and rook work very nicely in a long-range fashion against their g and h pawns. Queen eyeing the h pawn, rook eyeing the g2 pawn. So maybe knight into f4. Okay, now he's threatening queen here, mate. So let's not blunder into mate in 1. f6 looks like a good move. Leaves e6 weak, but I think that's a minor concern right now. Because wherever his queen goes, I'm going to have an opportunity for knight f4. Or even queen f4 or queen e5, moves like that too. Queen g4 allows knight e3, which, as far as I can see, basically just wins on the spot. Another mate threat. I didn't see that. I have rook takes g2. It's clever. Rook takes g2, king h1, though. Rook takes g2, king takes would run into knight f4. Could just play g6 right now. g6, I think queen h4. What about rook takes g2, king h1, rook back to g6? There's knight c6 things to consider. Rook takes g2, king h1. Just pawn g6 even? That's got to be winning. It has to be. Yeah, let's pull the trigger on
Check.
that. Looks like such a good move. I mean, my rook is like semi-hanging after this, but I don't think it matters. Because I'm going g6 next move. Yeah, no, let's play this. I mean, this position is very close to winning. It's just a matter of the time and managing the complications. Got to guide it through. Queen b2 becomes a nice possibility. Hitting the rook, also hitting that knight on d4. There's also some ways I can nearly trap their queen, too. Like queen h4, g5. Well, they have queen h5 again, though. I probably shouldn't do that. So queen h4 or queen h3. Against queen h3, moot point, he played queen h6. How about rook g5 now? Rook g5 he takes on e6, though. Point of rook g5 would be to go rook h5. He's planning on taking on e6. What to do? I can't play rook e2, he takes. Knight f4? Knight f4 they can still take, though. I gotta make a decision soon. What about rook g5? Knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, rook h5. There is no queen f8. But there is queen back to d2 to defend. This is tricky. They're threatening mate on g7 too when they get to do that. Well, that's just super annoying. I might just do something practical like queen e5. So I'm not sure what to do right now. Is queen f4 possible? Queen f4 and just forcibly try to swap the queens? They could trade and then play knight to d3. This is ugly. Knight f4 doesn't work. Not sure what to do. This is a little frustrating right now.
Time warning.
All right, I'm just trying something because honestly, I have 18 seconds. I don't know what to do. It's a complex position. I have no clue what to play. He can just take and play knight d3 is the bad part. And I'm losing a lot of stuff. I spent way too long there trying to find a good solution. Didn't come up with one. Yeah. Not sure what to say about that. Didn't manage my time properly. Yeah, like knight takes e6, knight d3 is good. Knight d3 is the easiest right here. Knight e4. Okay, let's go here. Oh, he's going to take on f6.
Check.
Okay. We can take our bishop. We have this move. If he moves rook c4, we actually have mate on d1. Yeah, unfortunately, we have like no time left. I think I'm winning my piece back. There's no time left to do anything.
Check.
I'll try to run my king up. This is going to be tough, though. I need to create like a mating net. How am I going to pull that off? Got to run the king all the way up. Yeah, there's just simply not enough time. But maybe. I'm giving it a shot. If his rook ever leaves the last rank, it's game over. He can check on g3.
Check.
Let's pre-move this capture. This is knight f6, though.
Check. Check.
Maybe we can win his last pawn. See if he's benevolent and gives a draw. This is kind of funny. Yeah, this is over. All right. Yeah, I mean, not much I can do when I leave myself 18 seconds for the rest of the game, but that position was pretty annoying because I felt like I should have something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Oh yeah, it's something pretty specific like rook b2, knight takes e6, trade, and then rook back to b7. Okay, let's have a look at it though. So we have this hedgehog, which is a really rich opening, as I mentioned before. I was hoping the game might go like more in a mainstream fashion, so I could describe some of the plans in more detail, like that Samish maneuver, like bishop back to d8, bishop to c7. But it didn't really go that way. So like right here, for instance, usually they would go like rook f d1, even before b4 actually, rook f d1 would be a good move. But a4, I played queen b8. Here, knight e5, hitting the pawn on c4. He takes b6, I take. He gets to take with a rook. Yeah, I felt like this must be good because of the weak b pawn. Felt like that was excellent for me. Okay, so here I was debating between rook f c8 and also d5. Let's check d5 for a moment. d5, e takes, knight takes, and then bishop takes. Knight c5. It's better for black, but it's not a huge edge. So instead, I played rook f c8, which also seems reasonable. I mean, just double up, get another piece into the fray. And then d5. Okay, so big advantage for black at this point. Rook takes c4, pawn takes, knight takes. I maybe spent a little bit too long debating between knight takes and bishop takes. Bishop takes, I didn't like rook b1. I'm wondering if this... And then knight bd4, and I'm pinned along the b file. So that was a problem. So knight takes is correct according to the engine, and it looks like I'm just going to win a pawn. I thought he might try queen d3, and I saw I had rook h4, which attacks h2, and also I'm triple attacking this pawn. Then if g3, can I play this queen d7, and I have hanging stuff. g3, queen a7 check. What happens if he just moves his king? Like king g2, king h1 maybe? Now knight takes b4 is good. Ah, because of queen d7, bishop takes f3, discovering against his queen. So that would win material. Instead, he played rook c1, and I was able to win this pawn. Queen a7 is also good right away.
Check.
I was trying to hold that check for later, for a more opportune time.
Check.
The engine wants to play it like this, and not take the pawn on b4, and instead go after the a pawn. But I took on b4. Yeah, so now I'm up a solid pawn, but he kept playing fast moves, and they were tricky moves too, even though I knew I must have been winning. Queen h5. Yeah, rook takes
Check.
g2. King h1. Okay, and here maybe g6 is a little bit risky. Yeah, in retrospect, this seems better. Which solves the rook problem and also solves the mate problem. I thought he might take, though. But I can come into b2. Okay, attacking the rook, threatening queen g2 mate. So g6, queen h6, queen f4. Yeah, and this is where I couldn't figure out what to do. Because all the lines I looked at just failed. I looked at rook b2, and then I saw take. The problem is, like, for about half the time I was thinking queen f8 was the only threat if he comes here. So hence I was thinking like stuff like this is possible, and then maybe playing like rook b1. But it didn't occur to me that until after I'd already thought for about 50% of my time that queen g7 mate is also a threat. I only saw queen f8 for some reason for a while. Yeah, nothing seemed to hold the rook and also stave off the coming knight captures. Probably this knight, actually, taking first to open the c-file. But it had to be this, and then, yeah, whichever knight he takes with, d or c. Bishop takes, knight takes, and then rook b7. Very specific defense, and a hard one to see. Like, the rook comes all the way from g2 back to b7, and I'm holding both these squares. And I guess black keeps the extra pawn. That's hard to see. I wonder if that's the only move, too. I can't really check it with this engine. It only shows a single line. But I wonder if rook b2 is the only move. Because very simply, he's just threatening to take or take on e6. Those are the threats. Queen b2 I looked at as well. How does that work? So if take, I can take on
Check.
h2. Ah, okay, and deflect his queen.
Check.
So I guess if queen b2, there's maybe knight d3, attacking this. And here I have to play rook g1. Because that either drags his king into the check, queen takes d4, or it deflects his rook and I can take here. And black is actually better, according to the engine. Yeah, very complex. I don't really know what to say about this. I spent a lot of time and I didn't find a move. And playing like some move that just loses feels wrong, but at the same time, the clock is ticking. I have to do something. So even though I knew queen f4 was bad, maybe I should have played it earlier. I don't know. It's tough. It's real tough. In reality, I wish I would have played rook g6 on the previous move and been much, much better, but yeah, and here I had mentioned knight d3 would have been really good for him because he's attacking c8 and he's also deflecting the knight from guarding the rook. So he's just going to win a piece. Like bishop d7 is my best move. Take. I run away with the rook somewhere. He's winning, probably. Knight f takes. I might have a pawn or two for the piece, but he's got to be winning that. But he went knight e4, yeah, and unfortunately, even though I came close to even winning the position, I thought at one point, the time was too much. I was hoping to bring my king all the way up to h3 and make a mating net, but that never happens. g5, I guess I was winning at the end. Knight h3, I thought about that. That would threaten check, king g2, and then mate. Probably forces him to give this up, doesn't it? And then take on g5. I guess I'm winning, but might take a little bit of technique to play out. Probably don't have time for it either. Yeah.
Check.
And then we trade down to this, but yeah, I really can't blame him for flagging me, even though this was a draw. Just, I mean, the time differential was pretty huge. So, and he did have mating material on board. So, kind of a shame. I thought I played well in the opening and middle game. This is a, like I said, highly complex variation, and if you want to learn more about the hedgehog, definitely check out those 2 books by Shipov. But I'll be back tomorrow. And thank you guys for watching. And I'll be back tomorrow with another standard game. Talk to you guys later. Bye.